and I'm excited that you all are along for the ride with us today. I'm coming to you from sunny Charleston, South Carolina, where the pollen is flying like snow. It's probably the only place I've ever lived that we get our spring pollen fall, where literally like an inch of pollen falls on the ground. It's absolutely nuts. But glad to be here. Glad you all are along to dive into something we're really passionate about as a company, and that's a conversation about email marketing. I'm going to share with you some of the tips that we use on a daily basis to drive success in this area. Share a couple case studies with you as well as we move throughout our time together, look at those. And as we usually do, try to break down some misconceptions. I know there's a lot of people that have been at our webinars before. Glad you're back. Some of this you may have heard in little snippets as you've been on other parts of webinars where we've talked about email marketing, hopefully to reinforce some of that for you today, as well as open up your mind to some new ideas. And there's a lot of new faces with us as well today. So thanks for being here. Thanks for signing up and committing an hour of your time. And my guarantee is that you will learn something new today, and we will expand the way you think about email marketing. So with that, let's hit a little bit of housekeeping, and then we will dive straight into our topic. The presentation today, a copy of it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and we will email a copy of that out to everyone who registered. So if you'd like to go back and watch it again, because I talk too fast for you live, which I get a lot of jokes about when y'all see me at conferences, then you can catch the recording and do that. We will also be doing Q&A at the end of our time together today. We'll use the chat panel to do that. So that's located on your GoToMeeting panel. You can find that, click chat, and then you can drop me questions about what's going on, about how my daughter's doing, because I know a lot of you have been with us before, sent me some encouraging emails about getting through these first few months, so thank you for that. Those of you who are new with us, just had our first baby girl. She's 3.5 months old. But if you got questions on email marketing, happy to field those too. Might be a little bit more relevant to our time, but doing well in the bear house. So with that, let's dive in. We've kind of got that the housekeeping stuff out of the way. So let's dive in. As you guys know, we talk a lot on our webinars about breaking down misconceptions. We think that to do great marketing, we have to break through some of the noise and the misconceptions people have about it going in. So maybe you can relate to me on this. I hate it when I don't forward a chain letter and I die the next day. How many of us have had that scenario happen, right? You didn't forward the chain letter and you did die the next day. Raise your hand if that's you. I wish we were doing this live so I could see the lack of hands going up in the room. But unfortunately, that is what a lot of people think email marketing is, right? It's the promise that Bill Gates is going to give you $10,000 if you forward this, or it's the email from your Nigerian prince, long-lost cousin who wants to make you rich if you'll just wire him $5,000. And that's the perception of email. So sometimes it has kind of a negative connotation around it, or there's a negative conception of what email marketing is. Some other things that we hear a lot as we're traveling and speaking and so forth are what's kind of listed below here. You think because you hate email, your guests do too. We hear the misconception a lot of, my guests tell me I don't want more email. And that is absolutely not true. I have so much data, and we're going to talk about some of it today to prove to you your guests do indeed want more email. There's a misconception that email is a dead marketing medium. Absolutely not true. Email is a changing marketing medium, like every other marketing medium, and like everything else in this world, it's constantly changing, but it is alive and it is very well from a marketing perspective. We also hear the misconception that I should only email my guests quarterly. I think that ties back to the misconception of my guests don't want more email, but again, it's absolutely false. And we'll share some data. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Misconception, email marketing doesn't work. Every time I get that statement, I say, well, how do you define it doesn't work? And I get this blank stare like, well, I don't know the data. Because if you really look at the data, right, I mean, we're a data-driven company. We want to help you through our webinars, teach you how to make data-driven decisions. Email marketing works. Email marketing drives traffic. Email marketing drives phone calls. Email marketing drives bookings. Email marketing drives revenue. Because at the end of the day, that's the point, right? I mean, we're doing all this marketing to try to drive more revenue. Let's not lose sight of that. And then the last kind of goes back into a frequency thing, but email marketing is only for news, or I should only send email campaigns when I have breaking news. I would say you should create the news, right? I mean, a good marketing person is the guy who creates the news, or the girl who creates the news. So you need to be creating news, but more than that, it's about staying top of mind. It's not about sending breaking news, although it can be used for that. It's not only used for that. So let's kind of break through some of those misconceptions. If you can, if you have some of those misconceptions and you're kind of sitting back with your arms crossed in your desk chair right now with a scowl on your face, like if that's you, if I'm calling you out right now, do me a favor, sit up, uncross your arms, take all those misconceptions and just set them aside for me. Like if you need to grab a glass of wine to help you relax to be able to do that, do it. Because we're going to spend about the next 45 minutes or so kind of unpacking some of these things and helping you take a step forward in your marketing this year, helping you make 2016 the best year that it can be. And holy smokes, it's an exciting year so far. It's been kind of a wild year over here at Q4 Launch. Things have been off to a bang of a start for our customers, and we're really fired up about that, excited about that. So we want to break through that, set it aside, because if you don't set it aside, you won't hear anything else today. You won't be able to connect with the rest of what we're going to talk about. So promise me that. You've committed the time. I've committed my time to help you. Set your misconceptions aside, and let's look at, in reality, what's really going on with email marketing, right? Let's try to figure some of that out. So here's what it is. Email marketing has one of the, if not the strongest ROI, or return on investments, of all marketing mediums. You can study marketing studies on return on investment again and again and again. And we do this a lot as a company. Like everybody, all the big software companies and everybody else release their study every year on the trends of marketing. And time again, email marketing performs as one of, if not the strongest return on investment of any marketing medium. Now there's some reasons behind that I'm not going to dive too deep into. One is it's a relatively inexpensive place to play, right? It's not all that expensive to send email marketing out, as opposed to other marketing mediums like buying a billboard or an ad in a magazine or search engine optimization or building a website, right? Those things can be pretty expensive. Email marketing is really inexpensive to do, which is one of the ways it contributes to having a strong ROI. The other is you can reach a ton of really targeted people really quickly, right? So that's one of the ways it drives a strong ROI. Yet, despite all of that, it is one of the most underutilized marketing mediums. I travel, I speak at probably this year I'll speak at 30 conferences. And a lot of times at those conferences, I'll ask people for a show of hands when I'm talking about different marketing mediums. And when I ask people who's sending email campaigns at least twice a month, and we'll talk about that frequency later, usually it's about 4%, 4 to 5% of people raise their hand. So 4 to 5% of people are doing this marketing medium at the minimum suggested frequency. So it's a huge opportunity. It has the highest ROI, yet it's the most underutilized because of a lot of those misconceptions we talked about earlier. So let's break through that. Again, one of the other reasons we're so excited about email marketing as a company, and we spend so much time and energy on it, working it, perfecting it, doing all of that, is because the American worker spends 28% of their day on email. Think about that for a minute. Is there anywhere else that the American worker spends 28% of their day? That's over 2 hours a day. If you track statistics, TV is going to be up there. Unfortunately, I'd love to rip the TVs out of most of the houses in America and push people outside again. But that's a different money trail I won't get into today. But this is a huge opportunity. People are spending 28% of their day on email. And when your email shows up, right, you're a destination, you're a bed and breakfast, you're a vacation rental company, you have this awesome story to tell, you have these beautiful photos, people came and they stayed with you and they made these beautiful memories, whether that was with their family and their kids were screaming and the memories were a little painful, or it was with their significant other and it was this romantic connection that they had, and we won't go into too much detail on that, but either way, there's memories here, right? And when your email shows up and interrupts their workday, we think interruption is a bad word, but in reality, in our case, as an industry, interruption is a good word, because they can sit there at their computer and they can look at your email and it can evoke an emotional response from them, which we'll talk about later on as well, and they can go back to that place. They can reconnect with those vacation memories they have, or that trip they took, or the friends that they got away with, or whatever it was. Why ever they came to visit you, they can reconnect with those memories, and they can take a break from work. But the beauty of it is, if their boss walks by, they actually look like they're working, right? I mean, they're sitting in front of their computer, they're reading their email. They must be working. So it gives them a chance to break up that 28% of their workday, but still look like they're working and daydream a little bit. And we're going to talk about that word dreaming here in just a minute too, and why that's so important. But that's 650 hours a year that you have the opportunity to reach somebody. And that's why frequency is so important, because you can't do this once. You can't do this quarterly. You shouldn't even just do it monthly necessarily. Really, ideally, you want to be doing it twice a month, because they're not going to open every email you send them. But when they're ready to take a trip, or when they're ready to make a purchasing decision, we want to be near the top of their inbox, or we want to achieve top-of-mind awareness. So we're going to talk through some of those things together as well. But it is absolutely something that American workers want. And not just American. That was a specific study of the U.S. worker, so that's why I say that. But we know that's true in other cultures and other countries as well. I just don't have the stats. But I would bet you the percentage is probably pretty similar across cultures. So it's a big opportunity to reach people, and it's something that they would welcome if it's done well, because it breaks up everything else in their workday. If they tell you they don't want more email, they're not talking about your email. They're talking about the email they get from everybody else. They're talking about their boss asking for a TPS report, telling them to make sure they put that cover sheet on it. If there's any Office Space fans out there, you're with me right now. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about your email. Your email is different. Your email ties in and it develops that emotional response and gets them excited again. And then the other is that email consistently delivers traffic to your website from your most qualified potential customers, your past guests. That's a question I love to ask when I'm speaking as well. Who are your most qualified potential customers? And usually people think I'm talking demographics when I answer that question. We get some great answers, right? We get some people who really know their target market, and that's awesome. But in reality, the people who are your most qualified potential customers are your past guests, assuming you've done a great job wowing them, and that's what we love about the independent or the unique or boutique segment of the lodging industry, and why we chose it to be our home for a company, because we love the delivery, the experience you provide to your customers. We'll talk about experiencing vacation here in just a minute too. But those people are the people that are going to be your best guest again. They're the most likely to come book with you in the future. The most likely group of people that will make a booking with you is a group of past guests. And you have a gold mine full of these people you're sitting on and doing nothing with, because you're not sending email out. So you have a gold mine of potential customers that are more likely to book with you than anyone else. They're more willing to spend more money with you than anyone else because they know the experience you deliver. And they're going to ask less questions once they get there, aka they're going to be a lower maintenance guest or a lower maintenance customer. Combine those things, right? Combine the most likely to book with you, willing to spend the most amount of money, and ask the least questions, and what do? You get the most profitable guest you can have. So not only is email a welcome interruption to people's day, not only does it have the highest ROI of any marketing medium out there, but it brings you the most profitable guest of any marketing medium out there. So if that's not enough reason for you to get fired up about email marketing, if you're not up on the edge of your seat right now thinking about it, then I don't know what to do. Like, now would be a good time for you to sign off. Let the attendee list go ahead and drop. Like, if you're not fired up about it, then the next 30 minutes we're going to spend is probably going to be a waste of your time. Just being honest. So now is a good time to sign off if that's you. But if you're excited about it, we're going to share some great tips for you moving forward. So here we go. I've talked about a few of these words. I've kind of planted this, but let's get inside the mind of the vacationer for a minute. Google released a study, and we've talked about it a lot. So you may have heard this before. Oh, there's somebody just signed off, so they weren't excited about email. That's cool. That's fine. Glad. Find something else to do. But this inside the mind of the vacationer is a really important thing to understand, because we have to understand the psyche of what's going on with our customers, right? So Google released a study in 2011, and we use this as a company to frame a lot of the decisions we're making about email. We talk about these stages a lot as well to decide, how to build email campaigns and marketing campaigns as a whole around these types of things. So these 5 stages, you've probably already read them, but are the dreaming, planning, booking, experiencing, remembering stages, right? Google laid this out as a linear process. The first step, dreaming. We're dreaming about the vacation we're going to take. Where should we go? What should we do? What are the limits? Like, what are our budgets? Like, we're dreaming about all this stuff. We're getting excited. We're talking to friends about experiences they've had. We're reading blogs about things. We're checking stuff out on Pinterest. Like, we're doing all this stuff. We're getting fired up. The next step is the planning stage. This is where people spend the majority of their vacation time. This stage isn't quite as fun. Like, it has some fits and starts, right? It can be really fun, and it can get really long and monotonous at times. But the planning stage is where people spend the majority of their vacation, which is kind of crazy, right? They spend more time planning their vacation than they actually do on their vacation, typically. So that's crazy, but that means there's a huge opportunity here to use great marketing to reach these people. And then the third stage is the booking stage. And most people think about marketing as targeting this stage. And that's fine, but if you only think about marketing targeting this stage, you've missed 2/3 of the sales cycle as far as steps, and you've missed the majority of time spent in the sales process. So if you create a sales funnel, if you went to sales training at all, there's this old school sales funnel concept that you put leads in the top and you get customers out the bottom. The majority of that sales funnel is going to be spent in the planning stage. The booking stage is just the very end. And you've got to do a great job of marketing to people dreaming and planning to get them to make a booking with you when they get to this stage. And if you've done a great job, a better job than your competitors in the dreaming and planning stage, when they get to booking, they're going to book with you. And I know we're off the topic of email marketing just a bit, but it all really ties back. And then the experience stage, that's what you all do so well and why we love this industry, because I love traveling and coming and seeing so many of you and getting to experience your properties. Absolutely awesome. Awesome time, and probably the biggest perk of the job. I think my friends don't even think I work. I think they think I just travel and go to all these crazy places and view all these crazy properties, and that's what I call work, which is a pretty good place to be. But I guess that's the perks of starting your own company. And then the last is the remembering stage, and that's when people are really reflecting back on email marketing, or excuse me, when they're reflecting back on the vacation that they took. They're thinking about that. They're remembering those memories they created, right? I mean, it's all the same words we're using here. And this is where one of the places email marketing can tie in really, really well. Because what we believe is, unlike the linear process Google laid this out to be, we believe this can be a cyclical process. And if we market to people when they're in the remembering stage really well, we can get them to go from remembering to dreaming all over again. And if we can get them to start dreaming about their next vacation, it starts this whole process over again. It's a short step. It's just a little bit of marketing to get somebody to go from remembering to dreaming, dreaming to planning, planning to booking, booking to experiencing, and we did it all over, right? We just created a repeat guest, our most profitable guest. We've achieved something pretty awesome. And that's the point. That's what we want you all to accomplish with great email marketing. You can plug every other marketing medium into this same process, and you'll find different areas that it plugs in. And we talk about this because all the areas of marketing should be impacted by this process. You need to think about that. But today we're really honed in on the email marketing part of it. So let's dive into our tips. All right, tip number 1 is send more email. You heard me say it before, people don't necessarily actually want less email, which means you need to probably send more email than you're sending today. Help your guests break up that 28% of your workday. Maybe this girl here is your average guest, right? I mean, she's sitting at work, she's kind of bored, thinking about the vacation she needs to take, whether she's thinking about a girlfriend getaway and going and getting her nails done or whatever, or she's thinking about taking a trip with her significant other, or she's got 2 kids at home, whatever her scenario is, we don't know. But if we can break up this work day where she's staring at her monitor and kind of bored like this, right, we choose these visuals real purposefully, you have the opportunity to do something powerful with her and bring joy to her that day, connect with her that day. And if nothing else, you have impacted her day, impacted that 28% of the day. So we recommend, you heard me say it earlier, sending at least 2 campaigns per month. There are scenarios where you might want to send less if you have a really small list or something like that. And there are definitely lots of scenarios where you might want to send more, especially if you have a big list or you're going to do some advanced segmentation of your list. Some really cool things you can do with email marketing as your list grows. But sending 2 campaigns a month, as we kind of recommended across the industry, is a good place for you to look at. One being a little bit more newsletter focused, being more about things to do, highlighting blogs that you've written, lots of great content you can feature in these campaigns. And I use the word newsletter, but I don't literally want you to call it a newsletter, right? Please save me the pain of putting the word newsletter in your subject line. Like, just don't do it. Like, just take that and don't do it and move on. Make that something catchy that connects with the content that's actually in your email. But it's more about that. It's what's going on in your area. It's giving people a reason to come visit you in shoulder season or off season, or telling them about, whatever is going on. That's exciting stuff. It doesn't have to be breaking news, but the fact that you've got a festival or you've got a race coming to town or you've got whatever going on in your destination, you need to tell people that, because that gets them excited about the opportunity to come and take a trip to come see you again. And that converts people that already know you, your past guests, into repeat guests. And then the other, we typically make that a little bit more sales focused or a little bit more of a direct call to action, and we feature packages there as well. If you're not doing packaging, it's a great opportunity to be able to pull people in. I'm actually going to be teaching a session at an upcoming the AIHP conference in Nashville, Tennessee, early April about packaging, so that's exciting. Check that out if you're going to be there. But that's really what we're looking to feature in those campaigns, is the ability to do that. And then the last, most emails, or not the last, but the next, most email software is priced per contact, not per send. So what that means is you're paying based on the number of contacts you have on your list, not the number of times you send to that list. So the second campaign you send, or the third, or the fourth that month, costs you nothing from a software perspective. Just having the software costs you $100 or $200 or $1,000, depending on how many contacts you have, dollars a month. Just having the software costs that. But to go in and send a campaign, or to send a second or a third or fourth, only costs you your time. So you've already paid for it. You might as well use it. And then that last tip there, that all kind of rolls under tip number one, consistency equals expectation. Being consistent with your email marketing makes people expect to see your email marketing. And if you're sending great email marketing, that expectation is a good thing. They'll expect to see it. They'll be excited to get it. And they'll connect with that content. They'll open it. So over a period of time, you could see your open rate, your click-through rates, all those things increase just so by the fact that you're creating your expectation if you're sending good email content. So tip number one actually had like 5 tips packed into it. Typical style for us, right? I mean, they're just kind of drinking from a fire hose, but lots of great stuff we want you to get. And if I'd made this webinar 25 tips on email marketing, you might not have been as excited to come to it. So. So let's dive into tip number 2. If tip number 1 is send more email, it would make sense that tip number 2 would be send better email, right? It can't just be more, more, more. We have to also focus on better. Quality and relevance in your email campaigns will create happy subscribers, which we define happy subscribers as higher open rates, higher click-through rates, and a higher ROI, or a higher return on your investment. So quality is all about connecting with quality of design. Like, you can't just throw something together. You can't just put a bunch of text in Constant Contact or MailChimp or whatever software you use and send it out. That's not a quality campaign. People want to see something that is visually attractive. Your brand should be carried through your email design very, very well. And the impact of that quality is really important on the overall brand and the aesthetic that you're trying to create. Relevance is also really important. Right? I mean, connecting a relevant message to your guests. So make sure the content that you're promoting, that you're sending out, is relevant to your guests. If it's not, you're going to turn people off. You're going to drive them away. Some ways that you can fail at relevance is having a subject line that doesn't match the content of your email campaign. Right? I mean, I see it happen more than it should, but the email subject line doesn't actually match the content of the campaign. Or the email subject line says newsletter issue number 7 in it, which is a no-no. Like, that's not relevant to me. I don't know what's in that. I don't care about what's in that. I want to know what's going on. Get me excited about opening your email campaign. As you're trying to measure your performance on these things, I'm going to give you some averages here. You can kind of take this down as notes. Higher open rates. The industry average for the travel sector is about 20%. And that's reported by MailChimp, which studies billions of campaigns sent every year. So 20% is an average. In the unique segment of lodging, we expect that to outperform the industry average by quite a bit. We see averages in the 30 to 40% range. Of course, a lot of that's based on the quality of the list as well, and the quality of the subject and the content that you're putting out. Higher click-throughs, another big one. Industry average on that, 2%. So if you're performing below 2%, something's wrong. You know you're not even keeping up with the industry average, let alone outperforming it. We'd like to see that number around 4%, so about twice the industry average. And it's really important to measure what's working and what's not to be able to see that. You need to be analyzing your campaigns, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. And then next, increase your depth of content. Well, what does that mean? It used to be that email marketing was thought of as a medium where you needed to have one message and one message only and one link to that message. Make it super simple for the customer to find that, click on it, and go to the one place you want them to go. And that was the methodology for a long time. But what we're finding, and I think as the industry as a whole is kind of changing on this, the deeper the content, i.e. the more content you have, the more likely something in that content is going to be relevant to your opener, your subscriber, your guest. The more likely it will be to be relevant to them. If it's relevant to them, they're more likely to click it. So by having a deeper amount of content, you're going to increase your click-through rate because you're going to have more things and have a higher likelihood of being able to reach something or have something in there that's relevant to the person reading it. So that's what depth of content is all about. We also recommend making sure that a lot of that is linked and having lots of different links. Even one piece of content, you might link 3 times back to where it is on your website. Make it easy for people. And then probably well, I don't know if I'd say the biggest. I was going to say it, but I don't know if I will. But one of the biggest elements of great email or sending better email is to use photos that elicit an emotional response. I talked about that earlier. I talked about emotional response and when you can really connect with someone with your email marketing and being able to let that be a way that people can reconnect with you and take a break in their day. But you have to think about what are those photos that elicit an emotional response. And we're going to talk about some ways to kind of figure that out in one of our other tips. So I won't spoil all that, but really try to hone in on that. And take away from that, if nothing else, that you have to invest in great quality photography of your property, but also of your destination, right? You can't just market your property all the time. You're marketing your destination as a whole, and using great quality photography will help you do that. We've tried to kind of show you some examples here of great quality photography. A lot of the photography we've used here is stock photography. We're going to show you some not stock stuff here in a little bit, but you can balance that line as well. It's better to use a great quality stock photo, in my opinion, than a really crappy photo that you took. Even if it's custom, which is a preference anytime, but if it's a really bad one, I would lean towards a really good quality stock photo over a really crappy photo that I took myself. And I'm just saying, I'm not a great photographer. So it's not my thing. But that's kind of a tip for you there. Awesome. Tip number 3 is to use an integrated approach. And this really ties into that emotional response piece that I was talking about. But using marketing intelligence from other channels to drive success in your email. So what does an integrated approach mean when it comes to email marketing? What we're meaning there is that you need to take what you're learning, which is just a simpler way of saying marketing intelligence. Take what you're learning. I probably should have just used the word learning, but take what you're learning from those channels, those other areas that you're doing marketing, whether that's social media or blog writing or going out and talking to people at a networking event. Take what you're learning from those things and use it to drive success in email. So what does that look like, right? What are some practical ways we can apply that? So tying back to the emotional response photos we talked about, think about the photos that when you post them in social media, they get the highest engagement. They get the most number of likes and comments. Those photos elicit an emotional response from people on social media. And they tell you that by liking or commenting on that photo. So that's kind of an indicator. It's real simple intelligence you're using from social media. Take that same photo and use that in an email campaign, and you are more likely to get better performance from that email campaign than you would otherwise because you know that photo performs well. You know that photo performed above your average from a social media perspective. We would believe then that it would also perform well for us in an email campaign. So simple things like that can really go a long way. If you're getting a lot of questions from guests, right? You get a lot of questions from guests that aren't, maybe they are, just like what restaurant should I be going to or what should I be doing while I'm here? Use that information because if guests are asking you that question, chances are that other people in your email database have the same question. And if you create content in an email campaign or an entire email campaign answering that question, there's a good chance other people will have that question and they'll connect with that campaign and they'll check that out. So you can create blog content about it, link back to your site, but using things you're learning in other places or using questions you're getting to drive your strategy here. That's what we're talking about from an integrated approach perspective. You're using all these different things to drive your email marketing strategy, and that's going to be one of the things that helps you. Because a lot of people say, I don't know what the point of email marketing is. Like, I don't know what to send out to people, everything else. Lots of things kind of go into that. And then the other thing we want to kind of hone into is your blog, and hopefully you're creating weekly blog content. I know most of us aren't, but hopefully you are. That content is going to be one of the biggest feeders of content for your email marketing campaign. If you're not creating blog content, you'll struggle to have content for your email campaign. So that's another part of that integrated approach. And using the hard work you're putting into your blog to feed your email marketing strategy, and use your email marketing as a distribution channel to drive traffic back to your blog. Because if you can get those things working together, you can create a lot of power from a traffic perspective and ultimately from a booking perspective. So hopefully that works. Hopefully that makes sense for you, and you can kind of hone in on why an integrated approach is so important from an overall marketing perspective. Tip number 4, this is one of those things for some of our more advanced users, but it's to A/B test regularly. If you're not sending 2 email campaigns a month, and you don't think you have time to do that, this isn't the slide for you, right? So do that first. That's most important. A/B testing is something that kind of takes things to the next level. And understanding which photos perform, what your guests are connecting to, all of those types of things will really help you figure out. So in this example here are 2 photos, right? I could tell my designer, I want a photo of a couple sitting on the beach. And both of these photos would meet that criteria. But these are 2 dramatically different photos. They could even be the same person. I don't know, right? They got the same body type, girl with blonde hair, guy with dark hair. Might even be the same people, but very, very different photos. And the only way you can know what your guests are really connecting with is if you A/B test it. And you might say, well, that kind of nuance isn't important, but it really is, because it ties back to that emotional response, which starts that whole remembering and then taking us back to the top of that dreaming, right? It's a really important thing to get the right photo in these campaigns, to be able to get people to get excited about taking that vacation, get excited about getting away, whether it's with their significant other, or maybe there's kids running around and we don't even see them in this photo. Whatever it is, you've also got to think about that and the type of people you're trying to reach when you're selecting your photos, of course. But split testing photos will help you understand what's going on. And that's one way to do it, but you'll be surprised. I mean, photos, personalization, which is using people's actual names, using like a custom field or a merge field to be like, hi, Matt, as your subject line, that can do a lot for you. The time of day you're sending campaigns out, the subject lines that you're using, you can split test all of this stuff. And in the same way we talked about social media impacting our email strategy, think about the time of day that your customers are most likely to respond to your email. Is it during the workday? It might be. Maybe it's that after lunch coma people have, and that's the best time for you to be able to send email campaigns, because they need to sit at their desk and look like they're working, but they really don't want to work because they've got the after lunch coma. So you can send them email in that time slot. You might find that really effective. You might find that 9 p.m. is really effective, right? People put their kids down, they're checking their email one last time before they go to bed. That might be an effective time for you, but you've got to split test that to really know. What I was going to say about social media is looking at the time of day your social media is most active, which Facebook will show you that data in Facebook Insights. They'll show you the time of day people are most active on your campaign, on your pages, which means they're either on their phone or they're on their computer or tablet or some digital device with internet access, right? If they're on a device to access Facebook, they can also access their email. So you can extrapolate from that or use an integrated approach to say, okay, if they're most active on my Facebook at this time, I wonder if they'd be most active on my email at this time too. And you can do some split testing around that and see if you get higher performance from your email campaigns if you send them at the time people are most active on your social media campaign. So just lots of little things you can do, but the culmination of those can make a significant impact on your overall result. And if you run those A/B tests, you will be surprised at the realizations you'll have about the way people respond to your email marketing campaigns and the performance you get out of those. But you have to do that testing regularly to get it there. You really have to analyze that data. Which brings us to tip number 5, and that is to track and analyze everything. It was said once, I don't know who said it, but if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And I would say we believe that for the most part. There are some exceptions, of course, to that rule, but for the most part, we believe that as well. And we're very data-driven, as I talked about at the end of our time together today. So you've got to make sure that you're measuring. You have to make sure that your email marketing software is tracking properly and sending that data to Google Analytics. And you've got to make sure you're using Google Analytics to analyze these campaigns. I can't tell you how many people we do analytics analysis with, which is something we do for free for a lot of people. It's a service to the industry and help them get on the right track. When we do those, we see no email marketing traffic. I'm like, y'all are doing email marketing. Like, oh, no, we are. So then we dive into direct traffic, and we can see it. We can usually identify what days they send email campaigns based on spikes in direct traffic. But so many people don't have this set up properly, so it's not tracking properly, so they're missing out on the insights they would get from analyzing that data if it was set up properly. And it's so easy to set it up properly. You just have to submit a support ticket to whoever your software provider is for email marketing, and they will absolutely help you with that. Super easy thing to do. You probably don't have to submit a support ticket. I guarantee you if you go to the help section, it's probably one of the first questions answered. So make sure that you're doing that. You will be surprised at the aha moments that are hiding in your data. You will be surprised about what you learn from what you're seeing in your data when you really get in there and analyze it. I was talking to somebody actually right before this call. I had a call with somebody. And who knows, they may even be on this call with us. And if they are, glad you're here. But I was looking at their email marketing data with them. We were doing an analytics analysis for them. And I was looking at their data with them. And what we realized was a couple days out of the year, they had email campaigns that outperformed other campaigns. They sent a lot. Like they were doing the twice a month thing well. But they had a couple email campaigns that had performed at twice the average of the rest of their campaign. So what I said to them was, you need to go back to June 9th, and you need to go back to February 2nd, I think was the other day. And you need to look at those campaigns, and you need to figure out why did those two campaigns perform at twice the average of the rest of your campaign. Something you did in those two campaigns was different than every other campaign you sent the rest of the year. And we need to figure out what it was so we can do it again, right? Figure out what we did well and do it again. Figure out what we did bad and stop doing it. So that's an important thing to learn. And you only can do that if you analyze the way campaigns perform, which is why every time we send a campaign, we go back and analyze that, and we take what we learned and apply it going forward. A lot of times our staff will actually print email campaigns they did, and they'll paste it on a whiteboard in our office, and they'll ask people different questions, like they'll quiz them on something. It's just something we do to kind of help each other learn in our office. But it's a cool way to say, okay, what do you think performed well in this campaign? What could I have done different, and how can I learn to make this better? We talk a lot about this process of plan it, do it, check it, adjust it. Plan it, do it, check it, adjust it. And constantly going through that with everything that you're doing. But that's where you get into this check it, adjust it thing, is from tracking and analyzing. Open rate and click-through rates are absolutely going to be important things to track. But as we think about email marketing and we talk about it, don't get so hung up on open rate and click-through rate that you forget about the advantage of staying top of mind. I often tell this story about it, actually one of our customers, but I'm on their email list, and I got an email from them about something going on at their property. I don't even remember what the email was. But I got it. I was having a really busy day. I didn't know it was going out. It's a customer of mine, a great friend of mine, but I don't work on their stuff on a daily basis. Somebody else on our team does. So that had gone out, no clue. It just popped in my inbox. That's awesome. Saw their name. They achieved top of mind awareness, but I didn't open the campaign. I didn't open it. I didn't click on it. So as far as we measure success, I was not impacted by that campaign. When in reality I was. I'm going to tell you the rest of the story now. Because what happened was that same night, my wife and I were going to dinner with some friends who are a good couple friend of ours, and a lot of people ask me for travel advice because they know I work in the travel industry, and like I said, most of them don't actually do anything, but they ask me where they should go on their vacations. So my buddy said, hey, Mary and I's anniversary is coming up. I want to take her somewhere nice, but I want to take her somewhere within driving distance of Charleston. Like I said, we live in Charleston, so I'm thinking, okay, I know a lot of nice places, but 3.5 hours or so, 3 to 4 of Charleston, like where can that get you? And the immediate thing that popped into my mind was the name of the person whose email I had seen earlier that day. We have a lot of customers that meet the criteria of within a drive of Charleston, and I love recommending all of you guys, but the one that got my recommendation that day was that property. They're about a 3-hour drive from Charleston, and they were top of mind. I had seen their email campaign that day. I didn't open it. I didn't click on it. But when my friend asked me for a referral, or he asked me for a reference that night at dinner, immediately they popped into my mind because they were the last person to touch me with an email campaign. They had achieved top of mind awareness. And they got my referral and they got that business, even though I didn't show up on any of those measures of success. So it's important to measure success, absolutely. But don't forget about the power of just achieving top-of-mind awareness and what's going to come from that. And if you look at that person's analytics, that sale will not be attributed to email marketing. They will most likely attribute that to a past guest referring them someone, and they don't even know the role email played in it. But in reality, that booking is 100% due to email marketing. It's due to the fact that they gave me a great experience, due to a lot of things, but they wouldn't have got that recommendation that day had they not sent me that email campaign and achieved top-of-mind awareness. So that's one of the ways email marketing can drive ROI, and you won't even realize it because you're going to get recommendations, you're going to get referrals, and think, oh, that's because I did such a great job giving them a great experience. And that's only partially true. The rest of it is the fact that you sent them an email campaign, you stayed top of mind, you connected with them, and that's how you got that recommendation or that referral. I get super passionate about this, the tracking and analyzing. We talk a lot about it as a team, but you really need to hone in on it and figure it out. So I'm going super long here. As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this. So let's blow through these case studies pretty quick. Some things we want you to learn from. This first one is an actual resort. This is about 10 minutes from my house. Great resort. I love to go play golf there on the special occasion that I can actually afford it. So I'm on their email list because I am a golf subscriber. I get great local rates. It's awesome. If you're ever in Charleston, go play golf there. Great spot. But this is a terrible email campaign, right? I mean, it's got this beautiful photo at the top, but the content in the campaign, there's just way too many text, or way too much text. There's just not a lot that really draws me in. There are so many opportunities to do this campaign well. The depth of content is really shallow here. We're talking about golf, we're talking about the spa, we're talking about overnight accommodations. There's a lot they could have done visually with this campaign that would have connected this as a busy professional who's on their list because I play golf there. I see this and it doesn't connect with me at all. This doesn't speak to me. But buried in there somewhere is something about golf. Now, when they feature that piece about golf, had they had a picture of a golfer and then talked a little bit about that, awesome. I would have visually seen that and connected with it. But because they didn't, my attention span is really short. I bounced out of this really quick. So lots of things that could have been done better with this campaign. The depth of content just wasn't there. Here's an example of a campaign that we sent out. Big buttons, right? I mean, that's one of the biggest takeaways is there's a reason people use big flashing neon signs, and it's because it gets your attention. And I don't want to do anything that tacky, but we do want to use big buttons, which are kind of the nice, clean version of being able to do that. So good depth of content here, great photos of the area, of the property, some good calls to action, some different depths of content, things about wine and beer, things about the new website they're launching, things about special offers, vacation guides of the area, and then, of course, a call to action for people to leave us a 5-star experience. So great, great variety of things here to be able to click on and hone in on. Here's another one, very similar from a design perspective, and some of the content similar as well. These were both campaigns designed to feature the launch of a new website. So you can kind of see what we're trying to accomplish from a stylistic perspective. Really beautiful design that matches the website. If you go from this campaign to the website, you're going to see great performance with the design elements of it. And the reason design is so important, we want to limit our text. We want to use photos where it's applicable. We want to use big buttons to make it easy and obvious for people, especially on mobile devices, right? Buttons can be really helpful on mobile devices, just to take me right where I want to go. So some good little tips kind of within these case studies on some things you can do and kind of take home and apply in your email marketing. And then this was the performance of these two campaigns. One had a 73% open rate, one had a 64% open rate. One had a 16% click-through rate, the other one had a 21.6% click-through rate. So unbelievable from a performance perspective. Lots of things that I could go into about why these perform so well. This is definitely well above the averages we talked about earlier, with 20% open rate, 2% click-through rate. They're well above our averages that we maintain of about a 30% open rate and about a 4% click-through rate. But a lot goes into why these campaigns perform the way that they did, and a lot that can be learned from that. So don't have time to dive into all those things today. I got a little too long-winded on some of the stuff earlier, but you can really analyze those and look at some things that you can learn from each of these individual campaigns. Awesome. So if you all have been with us before, you know we try to always end and help you take a next step. We know from a lot of people that marketing can seem like an overwhelming idea, an overwhelming concept, and can feel really, really complicated. You might be in that place right now, feeling like, whoa, Matt, you got me fired up. I'm on the edge of my seat, like you talked about. I've broken through those misconceptions, but I don't even know where to start, right? It's this big puzzle that's sitting in front of me. And if that's you, we want to help you take your next step. So we'll set up a free 30-minute email marketing consultation for you. We'll look at your Google Analytics to help you see the value of email marketing, help you see if you're tracking it right, and if not, give you some advice on how to get that set up properly. We'll answer questions you have that are specific to your business that you might not want to ask, in front of everybody, or maybe you do. Maybe they're already in the chat panel. I know there's lots of questions already in there. And then we'll make recommendations for your email strategy, custom to you. So being able to look at that and take what we've talked about here today and apply it at a custom level. So we've got to limit this to about 30 minutes just because we usually get so many of these requests after we do webinars, but we really want to help you with that, connect with you, and help you take those next steps because we believe if we all start doing this better, it will raise the tide for all of us, that we will all grow from that. So take advantage of that. I will send out an email afterwards with an opportunity where you can request that email marketing consultation. Awesome. So let's dive in. Let's see what questions we have in the chat panel. If you have questions, now is a great time to go ahead and put those in the chat panel, and we'll get to answering those for you. So let me pull this up here. All right, a question from Catherine. A/B testing subject lines. Do you send one email out with one subject line and then a second one to another group with a different subject line, then analyzing open rates and click-through? Is this correct? Great question, Catherine. Thanks for asking for that clarification. Yes, that is correct, but the trick to it is most good email marketing software has that functionality built in. So what it will do is you would say you'd set that up in your campaign or in your email software. You would build two campaigns with one variable that's different. It can only be one variable, otherwise you kind of you break the purpose of the test because you don't know which of the two variables made the difference. But you would create it that way, change that one variable, and then what it will do if your list is big enough is it will split your list. It'll send like one campaign to 10% of your list, we'll call that campaign A. Campaign B will go to 10% of your list, and then it will measure whatever it is you're trying to measure for success, and then it will send the winning campaign, whichever one performs better, to the remaining 80% of your list. So that's the way most email marketing software does that piece of it. So hopefully that answers the question for you. You could do it manually like what you're suggesting here, but it wouldn't be as true of a test because you'd have other things factoring in. So doing it that way through your email marketing software is the best way to do that. Awesome. Question here from Marcia. I am sending monthly emails through MailChimp. This month they say I had 5% of guests not wanting an email. How do I eliminate this? I'd really have to dive into what data you're looking at to see the 5% of guests not wanting an email. Assuming when you say they, you're referencing MailChimp. If you had a 5% unsubscribe rate, which is the only thing I could really think that you're referring to, something is dramatically wrong with your email. The industry average is about a 1% unsubscribe rate. We maintain about a 0.5% unsubscribe rate. So if that's what you're referencing, something is alarmingly wrong with the content or something you're doing from an email strategy. If you're referencing some other statistic with that 5%, I'm not 100% sure how to eliminate it, but that would be a great opportunity to take that 30-minute marketing consultation that's totally free, and then we could dive a little deeper into that specific subject to go over that with you. Just a personal comment from somebody for me. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. What are good email marketing programs to get started with from Robert? Great question, Robert. It depends on how advanced of a user you would kind of hazard yourself to be. MailChimp is kind of our go-to recommendation. It's probably the easiest. It's free if your list is less than 2,000 subscribers, so that's great. That's a perk. Of course, you have limited functionality with the free one, but but that's a good one to start with. Constant Contact is okay. We don't like that quite as much, but it's okay. What we use is a company called GetResponse, and it's a little bit harder to use. It's a little bit more built for agencies, but really powerful piece of software that has a ton of functionality. I believe it's a little bit more expensive as well. We send well over 1 million emails a month, so I know for us it's really expensive, but we're kind of a power user. So we're sending tons. So it really helps us because it's got really advanced functionality. So if you're an advanced user, I'd check out GetResponse. If you consider yourself more of an entry mid-level user, maybe MailChimp or Constant Contact would be a good one for you to check out, with our preference being MailChimp. Question here, does just one click count for a click-through rate? That really, a lot of software will break that down for you. Question was from Paula. A lot of software will break that down for you, so you have to see how your individual software measures that. Some of them do that different ways. Some of them count every click towards the click-through rate, but the real pure way of counting it would be one unique user's click counts as a click for the click-through rate. So a unique user might click on 3 or 4 things, but that would only count as one person towards your click-through rate. So that's the right way to do it. We have seen some certain software that doesn't quite have that figured out, and they report a little incorrectly. So sometimes you'll see discrepancies between data in your email marketing software and data that you see in Google Analytics. Sometimes those discrepancies are good because they're reporting on those 2 different things. Sometimes those discrepancies are bad because there are problems with the overall tracking of everything. That question came from Catherine as well. What email marketing software do you recommend? Covered that when we were answering that for Robert. So I think that's it. I think that's all of our questions for today. Hopefully that means we did a good job wrapping everything up for you. If you have any other questions, I'll hang out here a couple more minutes and answer those. Just use that chat panel, drop those in. Otherwise, watch for an email from us about that about the 30-minute marketing consultation. We will get that out to you, and probably early next week we will send out a copy of the recording so you can check that out. So thanks everybody. Hope you learned something new today and are fired up about starting to do email marketing on a consistent basis.